The White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce and On Location TV 19 are proud to present Your Business Matters, dedicated to your business needs. The White Bear Area Chamber is a nonprofit business organization serving as an advocate for the White Bear area and its business community. Now here is the Executive Director of the White Bear Area Chamber and the host of Your Business Matters, Tom Snell.
Happy holidays. Thank you for joining me on this December Your Business Matters. Today I have with me Dr. Mark Larson, the Superintendent of the Mahtomedi School District.
Hey, thanks for being
Thank you,
with me.
Dr. Larson, for being with me today. And I want to start out with, first of all, recognizing that the Mahtomedi School District recently ranked #1 in the U.S. News and World Report edition for schools in the state of Minnesota. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I guess the question I'd like to ask you is, why do you think you were able to take on and overcome school districts like Edina and Eden Prairie and some of the western suburban districts that typically are right up there towards the top?
Well, it's a lot of great things that come together. It was the high school that was ranked #1, but it really is a whole district-wide award, because the high school doesn't get a lump of coal in 9th grade and turn it into a diamond. They get a great kid who's coming up through a great middle school, O.H. Anderson and Wildwood. The things that set us apart, though, a lot of it has to do with size. The high school is at about the right size, about 1,200 students. When you have around 300 students per grade level, that gives you the student mass to offer the advanced placement courses, the college and the schools courses, but also enables you to offer the classes for students that are struggling, that transition to English or transition math. So you can provide services for that. The other thing about being about 1,200 students is you can provide the activities, the after-school activities, the athletics and all of that, that really do make a difference in students' lives.
So you think that there might be an issue related then to districts that might have these mega high schools with, I've heard 25, 3,000 students?
Yeah, I do think that. In 2006, the then superintendent, Dr. Mark Wallach, asked a white paper basically about the right size for school districts. And they compared a bunch of other school districts. And what they found is that a high school that's 3 times as big doesn't have 3 times as many offerings or 3 times as many activities. In fact, there's a diseconomy of scale. And you start putting money not into classroom but into hallway supervisors or that type of thing, which doesn't do much for the educational value. So you have to be at a spot where students don't have a sense of anonymity, where they have a sense of community, and that's where we found right around 300 students.
Now, circling back to the Mahtomedi School District, we'll get to those other issues a little bit later in our interview. Basically, because you were ranked the #1 high school in the state of Minnesota, what are some of the programs that your school district has that might set you apart from the other school districts? And the second part of that question is, in separating those other programs, did they have anything to do with your ranking?
The first part of the question is that it starts at the elementary level. And we have what we call walk to literacy or walk to math. And what that basically means is that the students are in their homeroom with their homeroom teacher, but then they'll move to a literacy teacher, reading teacher, or they'll move to a math teacher. And the students are grouped more with similar abilities. When I was a kid, schools you had one teacher all day, and you had really weak students and really strong students. Now that gap is a little bit narrowed, and that makes it easier for teachers to focus on the individual needs of students. So we start that at Wildwood, and that gives our students such a strong base, and we use it as a springboard for them to advance when they go to O.H. Anderson in the middle school. The second thing that we do is we embrace the philosophy of learning without limits. And so I'm overstating it a little bit, but years ago it was, if you could do 3rd grade work when you were in 2nd grade, the teachers would say, oh, you can't do that, you have to stay with 2nd grade work. But I'm ready for 3rd grade work. Well, what would you do in 3rd grade? And our answer to that is that student needs have to trump adult conveniences. And so we'll have kindergartners who will get through the kindergarten reading materials and move on to 1st grade. We'll have 5th graders that are now doing 6th grade and 7th grade math work. And we'll have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that are going, we have some students going to the high school for math classes. They're just walking across that way. Because whatever the need of the student is, that's what we want to do. Right. And embracing those philosophies is what sets us apart.
Great, and you're one of the only districts in that does that sort of thing in the
It's becoming
state?
more common, but we're
Uh-huh.
a leader in it.
Okay.
One other thing that I didn't mention is the whole scope and sequence of curriculum. Years ago, we aligned very tightly so that what you do in kindergarten then connects to first grade and so on, all the way up through 12th grade. We did that in science, which is why I believe that the Matamidi schools have had the highest science scores and the MCA test 2 years in a row because
Oh,
of
wow,
tight
that's good.
alignment, focusing on it, and the teachers knowing what to do. And one thing that we're really lucky about in Matamidi is our kids are fantastic. We have a supportive community, high achieving students. The expectation is that students come to school to learn, and so we have a lot of advantages than other schools do.
Now, getting back to a couple other points that we talked about a little bit earlier with the Matamidi School District and its ranking, what are some of the programs that you have for students that are maybe ready for even post-secondary work, but aren't, that are still in high school?
At the those are usually at the high school classes, and we have the advanced placement courses, and we have a program that's called College in the Schools, and that's where you take the University of Minnesota curriculum in, say, physics. It's taught by our teachers, but students will get University of Minnesota credit if they pass the class. And it's similar to the advanced placement that if you do well enough on your AP exam, you'll get college credit.
Sure.
So in some ways, a Matamidi education can be a revenue stream for parents, and students can have a semester, maybe even a full year of college credit by the time they go to high school, by the time they leave high school and go to college.
If they go to college, and so that gives them a lot of unique opportunities then moving forward
Absolutely.
into that type of framework.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you see for both the Matamidi School District moving forward in our hyper competitive social media society, and also maybe reach on beyond that and looking at maybe some of the suburban schools in the state of Minnesota and the suburban areas in the Twin Cities?
I think the biggest challenge that we're facing is two things. It's time and it's space. When I was a kid, and I hate to go back to all those things, but we got a set of encyclopedias one time, and my dad
Right.
said, anything you'd want to know is in this box. Here's all the knowledge in the world. Well,
Yeah.
in 1966 that might have been true.
Yeah.
It's certainly not true now. And so we need to be able to break through the barrier of space so students can learn anywhere. And a lot of that has to do with technology and social media. The other thing is time. School starts at the high school at 8 o'clock and ends at 2:30. During that discrete period of time, learning does happen a lot, but there's got to be time for learning after that time and before that time. And so those are the two big challenges. And how do you incorporate that beyond the homework assignments that we had when we were kids? Here, do these worksheets. Rather, it has to be embracing it. And social media can be part of it. Twitter
Yeah.
is a great tool for that. I have a Twitter account. It's at SUP Matamidi, SUPT Matamidi. And people can follow it and they find out what's happening in the school district.
Sure.
So how do we use that? We have teachers that tweet out to students, don't forget about this, or here's a link to read this. So students can do real-time learning at home, outside of the school,
Yep.
at night. And so how we embrace that, I think, is going to be one of our biggest challenges. The second thing is about technology. How do we use it effectively and appropriately? We've embraced the philosophy of bring your own device, BYOD, and your own device is the tool that you need for that time. iPads are great, the Chromebooks are great, laptops are great, iPhones, but they each have a specific purpose and they work well in certain instances.
Sure.
But they don't work well all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so you need to be able to incorporate when is a good time to use it, when isn't. So that's a big challenge as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, do you see the schools? Workforce development is a big issue too among the business community. And what do you see the role of the school district and with the local business community?
In two big ways. One is that we need to provide the business community with highly qualified and competent workers who graduate.
Right.
And I think we do that pretty well. We don't have a lot of students going directly from high school to the world of work. Our graduation rate is 99%, and about 96% of those indicate that they're going to either a 2-year or a 4-year college. The rest, some of them go into the workforce or the military. So it's a small number that we're talking about. But students need to be able to do simple things. We call them future-ready skills. They need to be able to use curiosity and imagination. They need to collaborate. They need to be able to communicate effectively, both written and verbally. They need to be able to work cooperatively. Because a lot of times the work of the workforce today needs someone who has initiative, has someone who can look at things and be able to, perhaps the most important thing is, use critical reasoning for problem solving.
Now, again, with the business community, are there areas that you're looking to link up with businesses more than you have in the past?
Yeah, I think that we could do a better job with our mentorships. We have a fab lab, fabrication laboratory at the high school. It was the first one in a high school in the nation. We have people coming from all over the country to see it. We had a person from all the way from Hawaii last summer, and we have Alaska coming in this winter still. So people are coming in to see that, and we have a lot of retired engineers who are working in it, but we need to expand that to have even more mentorship and more possibilities.
And give a little bit more broad description of what do you mean by mentorship?
Mentorship would be in two different ways.
Okay.
One is the kind of the one-on-one type thing in which a person, perhaps a technician or an engineer, takes a student or two under his or her wing. The other one is having our students go out in a larger group to an employment place and see what it's all about and figuring out, yes, this is something I can do, this is something I want to do, or even, nope, that's not for me, I'd rather do something else. But it needs to be more formalized than what we have.
Yeah. That's really good. I mean, these are some really good ideas that you've shared with me. I've also heard in a discussion, and I'm sure you have too, about the need to reform education. That when you look at various systems, when people graduate from the schools in the United States, I'm not talking about Mahtomedi directly, that test scores in this country are not leading the world by any stretch of the imagination. And I wanted to ask you if you think that is a legitimate concern, number one, and number two is, if it is, what do you think some of the things that need to be done that aren't currently being done in school districts, not only in Mahtomedi but around the state?
The first thing is that I think that there has been movement made to narrow that what's called the achievement gap.
Right, okay.
But the problem is that I think we're looking at it in a fundamentally wrong fashion. We're putting kids in boxes. Here's the ethnicity box. Here's the socioeconomic status box. Here's the language box. And so when you compare boxes of students, I don't think that's right. Rather, I think we need to look at the achievement gap as here's what a student can achieve and here's what they are achieving. And that's the gap. Or here's what they can achieve and here's what they are. It doesn't make any difference how high or low that gap is. But if what a student can achieve and what they're not, that's how we need to look at it. So education needs to become much more individualized. It's not about a block or a box of kids moving through a system. It's about this student or that student. It's not a big picture view of a whole school district or a whole grade level. It's a small picture view of an individual student. And that requires a great deal of work on teachers' parts. They need to be able to differentiate and individualize. We have the test data that shows what students are capable of doing or what they are currently doing. And we need to use our professional judgment to see what else they can do and then work to close the gap in that way. So I think that's the first thing. But that's a heavy burden to carry because that's a lot to that.
That really is, yeah. So when you look at things that way and the achievement issue, you get into the testing mode. The program that was set up with a lot of fanfare back a decade or so ago, No Child Left Behind, and conceptually, it seems to make sense that you want to bring students up to a certain achievement level. So from the knowledge of No Child Left Behind, what do you think that type of program where you're working to bring that group up can have an effect on other parts of the education system, can hold back because you're kind of testing to the test?
Yeah, if you're teaching to the test in a lot of
teaching to the test.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. But the thing that I think is really important about the whole idea of No Child Left Behind is that fundamentally it makes a lot of sense. You don't want to say to these students, we don't care about you. You need to move that along. And what we've done at Matamidi, which I think could be a good model, is that, first of all, we're really proud of the test scores. We really are. The Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment, MCA tests, our math students, we had the highest percentage of students passing the MCA in the state.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's great, and we're
Yeah.
really proud of it. Our teachers have worked really hard, our kids have worked really hard, but it's about 80% of the students that passed, 80.3, something like that, which means 1/5 of the students didn't. And so now, while we're proud of that 80%, we still got about 1/5 who didn't make it. So when you're in a classroom of 20 students, that means 4 of them didn't make it. Do you just say, wow, we're really proud of the 80%, let's forget about those 4 kids? Or do you say, wait a minute, we have to do more, and we can do more. And we need to provide more support for those students who are struggling, and that's individualized attention, and that's pulling them out of classes to give them more help in reading or math, whatever it happens to be. But on the same hand, it has to be on that high end as well. If 80% of our students pass, in that classroom of 20 students, 16 of them pass, a few of those kids probably pass with flying colors who need more challenge and more rigor.
Right.
And that would close that achievement gap in that way. And we need to raise that achievement gap in the other way as well. And that's going to require more resources to pay for the teachers to do that type of thing.
Yeah,
But you have to look at it individually, and then who's not making it and what do you have to do?
sure. Some other things about the Matamidi School District. It's been around for a number of years.
Yeah.
Can you give me any kind of a historical perspective?
Yeah, the Matamidi Wildwood Elementary was the school that housed almost all the students at one time, built in 1951. And now this past year, this year it's been torn down. And this past year we were building a new Wildwood, and that opened this fall. It's a great fanfare. The chamber advertised it quite nicely, and we had a lot of folks show up. That was that August 20th day.
Right.
It was great, and the new school looks great. It's the same number of classrooms as the old school, but it's got some features that are much nicer. The history of Matamidi has been one of moving forward. You know, we can't just rest on our laurels, but we need to keep going ahead and keep pushing. And that's what's happened with this new school. It's the same number of classrooms as Old Wildwood, but we've added early childhood family education to it.
Early, and why'd you do that?
Did it for a number of reasons. The first one is that in many instances, early childhood programs, and these are programs for students, you know, birthed before they start kindergarten. A lot of those places, it's an afterthought. It's apart from, not a part of, the district. And by putting early childhood at Wildwood, it's one less transition for students, it's one less transitions for families.
Yeah.
The teachers can share in staff development and professional development. The students are just walking now from the early childhood area just down the hall to kindergarten. And they can use and access the entire school. So early childhood goes up and uses the media center. They use the gymnasium. We have a small, in the library, we have a small kind of amphitheater that they can use. So they're able to use all of those great things that they didn't have before, which is a nice feature for that.
Yep.
Having it be a part of makes a huge difference. So Matamidi has always been looking ahead. At the high school, when we did the renovations, we made safety improvements, and we also did a lot of work with the Fab Lab and science area.
Now, you know, there's a lot of discussion, too, about the need to focus more on science and math, and I know your school district does an excellent job with that. How about some of the other parts of education that seem to be, some people say, getting shortchanged? Programs like debate, band, some of the venues that were offered pretty extensively back a couple of decades ago. Can you comment on that?
A lot of times when people are forced to make budget cuts, they have to make rough decisions. And so if you're focusing only on that test score, that math score, then you're going to say, well, what's more important, more math or art class or music or whatever it is? And people have been forced into making those tough decisions. And that's too bad because kids need that creative outlet. But they also need to be creative in all of their classes, not just in art class. At Matamidi High School, we have a very vibrant art program, and it attracts students because of the quality of the work that the students do. And it's kind of the old Madeline Hunter, success breeds success. Kids want to be part of that. Our choral and band programs, outstanding. If you get a chance to come to the winter holiday concerts, they are.
I will.
Good.
Okay,
They're
well,
fantastic.
we have to make sure that we publicize that.
Yeah, they're great, and they attract a huge crowd. And it's fantastic for the students to be in front of a large audience. They sing in front of themselves and their choir teacher all the time. Same with the band, and so it's great to have people come to those things.
Great. You know, just in finishing up our interview here, just real quickly, Do you have programs where you have open enrollment? Like if some student lives up in another part of the Twin Cities area and they want to go to Mahtomedi School District, assuming you have room,
Right.
They can apply?
Yeah, we do. We have a number of students that apply for open enrollment. This past year, we had 467 applications, but we only accepted 159
Wow.
because of space. Each student brings with them a significant amount of money. So if you bring
Yeah.
in 20 students, you'll get around $150,000 in state aid, and that's local, state, and federal all combined. And that's enough to hire not just the one teacher for that classroom, but some more. So open
Sure.
enrollment's a money-making thing. I always use an airplane analogy. Very rarely do you fly on a plane that doesn't have, that's not full to the brim.
Yep.
Our airplane is built with Wildwood Elementary, O.H. Anderson, the middle school and high school,
Yeah.
and we want to keep it right-sized at the high school of about 1,200,
yep.
so you fill the plane.
So students apply, they're put in, it's a lottery system then, right? Now, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or the Mahtomedi School District, how do they go about doing that?
They go through our website, mahtomedi.k12.mn.us. Follow me on Twitter at SUP, S-U-P-T, Mahtomedi, Mark Larson, and then they also have the phone number, my phone number and contact information on the website.
Wonderful.
There's also a spot where you can ask a question or leave a comment, and someone will get back to you within 48 hours on that.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Larson, for joining
my
us today
pleasure.
on Your Business Matters.
Great. Thank you for having me.
You've been watching Your Business Matters. For more information on this program or the White Bear Area Chamber, visit www.whitebearchamber.com or call 651-429-8593.